and technology and innovation is something that's clearly indispensable for international social and economic development. And you'll bear with me by this rather long-winded cartoon, which you might not be able to see too well anyway. But the efforts of women are often marginalized, and promoting women in leadership roles in science and engineering is one of our key objectives, starting from our efforts in primary and secondary education through our efforts of senior women parliamentarians and university professors, etc. So for women to really rise to their full roles in science, it's clear that the process of science needs to change. There needs to be a transformation in science and engineering to more effectively link to issues of importance to women, to strengthen their roles, to bring in traditional knowledge of women. In many societies, a great deal of the traditional scientific knowledge is embodied in women. And so promoting women as technological innovators and agents of change is a key priority of UNESCO. Whoops, I did it again after I said I wouldn't. Oh, gosh. So, science education at UNESCO. For us, we try and embed our work in science education into our work in science, where we have a strategic advantage. So, as I mentioned in our efforts in water, we build on the fact that we have this huge, world's largest network in freshwater systems that we can count upon. We also build on deep sets of partnerships, including with institutions that were founded through UNESCO, such as CERN. So with CERN in Geneva, we've got very heavy efforts underway in physics education, particularly in Africa, and on digital library access. We also focus very strongly on education for sustainable development. As you know, I'm sure we're in the middle of the UN Decade for Educational Sustainable Development, and we take that broad topic to include education for climate change, natural disasters, biodiversity, etc. A newer effort that we have underway is a focus on earth sciences education in Africa, particularly focusing on enhancing the participation of women. Work with Apple on expanding the participation in Apple iTunes University to universities from the developing world. A very strong effort on strengthening higher education in Africa in partnership with the African Network of Scientific and Technological Institutions, and an exciting emerging partnership with the Nature Publishing Group on a full-scale biology and physics curriculum at the university level. In higher education systems, as I mentioned, we believe in leading with research. So we work with networks of universities, not exclusively in Africa, but with a focus on Africa, to build new interdisciplinary research centers of excellence, which focus explicitly on a number of the common challenges that I mentioned before. And then to work to transform the curriculum to focus less on a series of courses than on a sustained collaborative interdisciplinary effort to address these challenges in alliance with other universities, government, and industry. We also work on promoting student leadership with international design contests and with work with student societies. In popularization of science, we have a number of efforts, including the World Science Forum, which just concluded week before last in Budapest and is moving to Brazil for the first time in its next iteration. We have a program to work with parliamentarians. Most parliaments have science and technology subcommittees, and to bring them together to address their common needs and to help them be more effective in pushing forward the science agenda in their parliaments with their ministries of finance, etc. We have a very strong focus on local and indigenous scientific knowledge systems, on collaboration with science journalists, and on with science museums and science centers. I wanted to tell you a little bit about this emerging UNESCO engineering initiative because it's one of our newer directions and it might be of interest to many of you in the House. as you will see from the large-scale intergovernmental programs that I mentioned, our current strengths have been in addition to policy, have been in environmental sciences. And after joining UNESCO, I came to the conclusion that if we're really talking about job creation and economic development, we need to have more of a focus on the TI part of the STI spectrum. And our member states strongly agreed with that, particularly in Africa, our highest priority region. So we have, as of earlier this month, just approved by our General Conference, launched this UNESCO Engineering Initiative, which will focus very strongly on engineering for sustainable development. We're structuring it so that we can build throughout on the strengths that we already have throughout the House, in our offices and related research centers around the world, and with our partners, so that we can make a difference relatively quickly. And within the higher education sets of institutions, again, the strongest focus will be on innovations in higher education, new types of interdisciplinary research, better connections with industry, faculty development programs, and innovations in engineering education. And to do all of this, of course, the South-South partnerships, but the North-South-South partnerships are particularly important. And I'm hoping that the Korean higher education institutions will be very interested in collaborating in this new initiative. There will also be a strong focus on participation by women, also working with the many societies, many of them catalyzed by youth themselves, which address engineering issues, enhancing the focus of engineering in our STI policy work with member states, working on accreditation processes with other partners. And we have a very deep partnership in this already established in this work with the WFEO, the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, which represents 1.5 million engineers around the world and has 9 relevant working committees, but also the IEEE and the American Society for Mechanical Engineering have decided that they want to work with us on this. And lastly, the other main partner institution here is a network of 130 research universities throughout Africa. So, my main goal in being here today is to hope to excite some of you who are currently not involved in any collaborations with UNESCO to get in touch and to talk about ways in which we might work together. The majority of the audience is obviously Korean, and we're lucky, as I said, to have our strongest national commission in the world here in Korea. The National Commission consists of 60 very highly distinguished individuals from various sectors of Korean society, and they are supported by a secretariat, a staff here in Seoul of about 90. We even have a UNESCO building thanks to the generosity of the Korean people. So those of you who are here from Korea and are interested in getting more involved with UNESCO, you just have to go across town and get in touch with the UNESCO National Commission, but you're all welcome to get in touch with me. These are some of the areas that I see that we can welcome collaboration from those of you in the room. Of course, we have the long-standing existing programs, i.e. oceans, water, biodiversity, geosciences, etc. In the area of policy, we've launched some very interesting international scientific collaborations on designing new policy indicators and promoting collaboration and shared resources to policy instruments among policymakers throughout the world. And those are the acronyms STIGAP and GoSPIN, and I urge you to look at our website if you're interested in that. The third basic area where I believe we could have a great deal more collaboration is by taking advantage of these UNESCO sites. I mentioned the biosphere reserves that are designated for biodiversity. There's 4 of them here in Korea, for example, and the government of the Republic of Korea has recently also nominated their half of the demilitarized zone as a new biosphere reserve, which I think is a tremendously exciting initiative. So we have that network, but we also have the World Heritage Sites. And you might think of World Heritage Sites as being designated primarily for like architecture or urban planning, urban issues, but there's also a large number of the World Heritage Sites that have been designated for natural reasons. and the Geopark network, which I mentioned. So there's no other organization in the world that has this rich network of sites. And we do use them for research, education, community development. But we could do a far, far better job. So my goal in my tenure as the head of natural sciences at UNESCO is to really make this set of sites come alive. And that will require bringing them all up to a collective minimal level of research and educational capacity so that they can all contribute to the world's largest collective attempts to understand some of the natural phenomena facing our planet. And I also mentioned other areas of collaboration that I also mentioned are these new initiatives, our engineering initiative, the biodiversity, natural disasters, and our work on strengthening science education. In biodiversity, I will just say that one of the exciting developments underway is that UNESCO has been very much active in working towards the establishment of the intergovernmental platform on biodiversity and ecosystem services, which it will be launched in a matter of months, and which will be the biodiversity analog to the IPCC. So this is the sort of domain that we welcome enhanced participation with the participants in this conference. And I'd just like to conclude by saying that UNESCO exists to serve our member states. We do that by trying to integrate collaborations in education, the sciences, and culture, to try and work across the space of discovery, of implementation of results through policy, and of education. And we only do that through the types of collaborations that we're able to bring together. And so with that sort of overview, let me say that I look forward to having a chance to talk to many of you in the conference, and I urge you to please get in touch with us should you have any questions or interest in increased participation in our work. Thank you.